I want you all to take a moment and imagine yourselves in a classroom. And as you do so, I want you to picture the students around you. Find the one student in that classroom who stands out to you as the most reluctant learner you've ever had to experience. Keep that fresh in your head for the next few moments and allow me to embody that student. I loved learning at a very young age. However, I was a reluctant learner. I refused to take naps. In the first grade, I did my work very quickly. It's a little messy, but it was correct. And then I would distract my peers. So my desk was moved to the hallway where I spent the rest of the year just having conversation with the coat rack. I promise it was a great conversationalist. But as time went on, a few years later, I found myself caring more about when the teacher would turn their back so that I could wage war using paper planes and crayon bombs with my peers than actually wanting to do the work in the classroom. A little bit more time goes on, and I find myself becoming very rebellious, argumentative. And by the time I hit high school, I'm downright blatantly disrespecting authority figures in the classroom. So much so that a former educator of mine, who had me permanently removed from her class, was quoted as saying that I was a manipulative ringleader who sought to undermine her authority and get the classroom against her. It's true. That said, I want you to think back on that student I had your picture in your head. And I want to ask, do you happen to know their story? Who they are outside of the classroom? Let me share with you mine. I was raised by a single mother who has 9 brothers and sisters, all of whom have struggled with addictions to alcohol and drugs. This led to the unfortunate event of me seeing a relative abuse heroin at the age of 5, one of my earliest memories. And this only traveled later on, a few years, where I witnessed a DEA raid at my own home. And going further down the line, my mother would marry an alcoholic, accidentally, of course. But that said, it didn't get to the point of being violent or domestically abusive until he returned from Iraq as a war veteran. This was going on during the time of high school, and I had 2 younger brothers at home as well. I wasn't sure if I would walk home into a bloodbath or if everything would be business as usual every day. So how does someone like me, who got through high school, I graduated with a 1.6 GPA, end up here in front of you all? Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't admit that my mother at least was an example of perseverance, even in her darkest hours. And I also need to acknowledge my great aunt, my nanny, who provided the opportunity for me to go to college and to get my life together and stable. But the truth is, there was something in my head that stuck out. There were several educators, but one in particular, Nancy Burrill of Revere High School. In my senior year, I had her as a teacher, and we've since reconciled, but in my first week, she wanted me out of this classroom immediately. But she utilized the connection that she had, and she learned a few bits and pieces about me, mostly that I was capable of doing the work. And that's a key factor that a lot of my educators didn't tap into, was that because I was reluctant, they assumed that I couldn't do the work. And I urge you to reconsider that if that's what you've been led to believe, because reluctance does not equal ineptitude. I could be perfectly capable of doing the work as evidenced by my test scores, but the fact of the matter was, I just didn't have the motivation to do it. My home life was too much of a distraction to do homework, and in the classroom I got too many kicks, if you will, out of just throwing my classwork on the floor. It's unfortunate, I know. But she did more than that. She established a connection with me, a rapport. We were sarcastic, we were witty, we were even argumentative with each other. But she reminded me of something that I'd long forgotten. It's that I liked to be challenged academically. I enjoyed the mental challenge that she provided. And she did so in a very respectful way that I hadn't seen in years. And since the cracks in my mental armor began to dissipate, I remembered Nancy continuing on through my college journey. And I ended up becoming the president of an international honor society for the English at Salem State. And I recently graduated with my bachelor's degree in English and with a minors in education and computer science. So I challenge you all today. Reconsider your reluctant learners. Think of them differently. You can motivate them. They are capable of much more than appears on the surface level. Establish those connections. Find what drives them and motivate them towards success. Thank you.